A disgraced former Chicago police sergeant is about to cost taxpayers a record-setting amount in total lawsuit payouts. A $90 million settlement proposal to settle 176 lawsuits against former Sergeant Ronald Watts is only part of that price tag. Investigative reporter Dave Savini has been digging into the toll this is going to take on taxpayers. Dave?
Joe, it could have been worse, much worse, say city lawyers, who also say if they don't settle, they'll be faced with defending the Chicago Police Department in 176 different civil rights trials for wrongful convictions. These are cases where Watts allegedly planted evidence on people if they refused to pay him during a pattern of shakedowns in places like the Ida B. Wells housing development.
It was a horrible time for the city.
City lawyers confirm they're willing to shell out $90 million to stop the flow of even more potential payouts for pending lawsuits related to former CPD Sergeant Ronald Watts after decades of corruption. Watts was indicted in 2012 and pled guilty after being caught in an FBI sting. The people Watts helped put away were ultimately released after he and others on his tactical team were caught shaking down suspects and planting drug evidence. Tyrone Fenton says Watts planted drugs on him too. He spent 3 years in prison on a drug charge before his sentence was vacated.
Being incarcerated for something that you didn't do makes it 10 times worse.
His brother Joey Fenton was also convicted of drug crimes. Together, they are among more than 200 people to have their sentences vacated since 2017.
These officers pled guilty for conduct unbecoming, taking of funds inappropriately. There was the liability of the city, from my perspective, was clear.
The CBS News Chicago investigators found today's proposed $90 million settlement comes after $11 million in prior settlements connected to Watts and at least another $25 million spent on private law firms to defend Watts and the city in these cases. Total bill for taxpayers, a staggering $126 million.
This is an important chapter that we are closing for the police department.
City lawyers determined through their risk manager that fighting these 176 pending lawsuits would have cost the city even more.
Her estimation was a staggering figure. $350 million to $500 million we'd be spending if we continued on this path.
If approved by the full city council later this month, the $90 million would be divided up among the plaintiffs based on a formula which includes how long they spent behind bars and other factors. Watts was stripped of his pension after his federal conviction.
What if all the plaintiffs don't agree?
It's already agreed upon.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, they've signed that. Now the city council just has to agree.
Okay. All right, Dave, thanks very much.